In this episode of the Exploring Information Security Podcast, how to gamify your incident response playbook.
Computers now have primary control of critical functions.
Houston, recommend vector transfer.
Your go for APU shutdown on time.
Roger, go for deploy.
Nice to be in orbit.
Welcome to the Exploring Information Security Podcast, where you will learn, explore, and grow your security mindset. I am your host, Timothy DeBluck, and in this episode, we will be exploring gamifying your incident response playbook. With me to do that is Anushree Vaidya, cybersecurity analyst at Exo Cyber. She is a dynamic cybersecurity professional, emerging leader, and passionate mentor. Anushree's journey spans technical roles, education, and leadership, and she's a co-founder of Exo Cyber Club and a cyber mentor with the Women in Cybersecurity organization. She's been recognized by Microsoft Security Response Center, awarded scholarships from Black Hat and Women in Cybersecurity, and is presenting at conferences like Women in Cybersecurity 2025, B-Side San Diego, and right here at ShowMeCon. Show notes can be found at exploresec.com/EIS. Feedback for the show, timothy.dbluck@exploresec.com. You can hit me up on LinkedIn and rate the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. That is the best thing you can do for the show, is to help promote it, is to give it a rating. I'd love you for that. ShowMeCon dates and training are June 6th through the 10th. So training is going to be 6th through the 8th. The conference itself is June 9th through the 10th. I'm excited to be there. I've got some stuff planned out for ShowMeCon. I get to also MC it. So if you want to hear more of my voice, come to the conference. If you want to sign up, you can get $50 off by using ExploreSec. Training, well, there's a few different trainings. So 3 days is forensics, intrusion detection, mastering InfoSec, and then hands-on hacking. And then there's a couple one-day courses, API pen testing, web app pen testing, and that's pretty much it. The venue is Ameristar Casino Resort. Y'all, this is one of the best venue I go to for a conference. I've been to Las Vegas. It's very crowded there. This is a nice self-contained. It's not super crowded outside of actually going to the conference. And even then, there's plenty of room to move around. They got full size candy bars. Y'all should really look at going there. Bring the family. St. Louis is a great family town. So while you're doing ShowMeCon stuff, your family can go to zoo that's free, can go to the science center, can go to the kids center. They've got art stuff. They got all sorts of stuff to do. Baseball's in season. So if you're into baseball, you can definitely, I think I did look, and the Cardinals are in town, I believe. So definitely go check that out. Well, I guess the reservation's done now at this point. April 21st was the closing of the reservation, but still, go check it out. Check out the conference. Sign up. So this was an interesting one with Anushree. She is a very sharp individual. Really looking forward to seeing the progress of her career, but she's trying to make incident response playbooks fun, interesting, and memorable, and gamifying it is definitely the way to do it. I like doing gamification with a lot of different stuff in my security career. I did it for vulnerability management. So if you think it's just for security awareness, it's not. It's for a lot of other different stuff. She's got workshops too, so I'd definitely go check out her LinkedIn profile to see where else she might have a workshop if you want to get the full thing. But you can get within the ShowMeCon session a nice 50 minute presentation on how to gamify your incident response playbook. So really excited for this talk. We also talked off, I think, like after we recorded, about at ShowMeCon doing a reverse interview where she was curious about like how to start a podcast. So we're talking about doing that at ShowMeCon, where she can interview me on like how you actually start a cybersecurity podcast, which is interesting and something I've been looking to do at the booth anyway. I'm gonna have a booth at ShowMeCon, so definitely check that out as well. I will have swag. I have lots of swag that I need to hand out. So come check out ShowMeCon. With that, we'll go ahead and get into it. And I started by asking her to talk about her talk at ShowMeCon.
My talk is titled Ransomware Rampage, Gamifying Your Incident Response Playbook. And the whole idea kind of stems around, what ransomware is, what is the life cycle. And the key motivation for the talk was that I've gone through a couple of ransomware life cycles, and especially there were scenarios where the teams were struggling with understanding how to kind of map the normal incident response, methodologies to this specific ransomware scenarios. And that's when I started realizing that maybe I want to learn more. And I started doing research on it, and that research kind of matured into the session as it is now. So really excited for ShowMeCon and for talking about this.
Yeah, no, I think playbooks are really good. But I feel like it's a lot like other documentation where it's like it's just people need to take the time to sit down and actually get them done.
Yeah, absolutely. And playbook like just a policy or that's very high level, that's very general. Ransomware specific playbooks, and playbooks you can create for like each different types of incidents that you face in cybersecurity. And having a ransomware playbook has a couple of additional blocks that you need to take care of, and you need to understand what exactly to put into it. And it just gives you a very nice succinct a procedure, a checklist to go through and make sure that you are actually doing everything that's needed, given how unique and how severe impact incident or ransomware attack is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that you're gamifying it. I am curious what that actually means, because I'm a big believer in gamifying as much as possible, but I've never thought about it from a incident response playbook standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. So I personally have always loved when learning is more fun if it's interactive, because it's very easy to for me to come up with this slide deck, which definitely can be very, very resourceful, and people will gain very good insight out of it. But it just kind of becomes that me just bombarding sometimes a lot of knowledge, given how insanely technical some things related to ransomware can get. The gamified activities, which are just basic activities that you do in teams, is how I created this workshop, this session around that you participate as a team, and you'd be doing some quizzes, some activities. You'll be going through an incident related to ransomware, which is scenario based, and go through it and identify different things, identify what are the actions you're going to take. And what I do like about that is when people come from different walks of life, from different organizations to these conferences, and when they're sitting in a team, they're usually sitting next to strangers. And, one person might be coming from a big organization, someone might be coming from an SMB. And when they actually put their heads together, there might be a lot of learning opportunities right there, which just me presenting, with a PowerPoint is not going to be achieved. So it gives people an opportunity to talk to each other and actually gain while also learning new things at the same time. So that was the whole point of, having that gamification, because ransomware as, an incident and attack itself is very heavy. It's very dreadful. And if you can add a little bit of, fun and interactiveness to the learning process, to the preparation process, then it is going to take a lot of cognitive load off the person who is participating and who might eventually, be an incident responder for such an attack, to, go through something in a fun way and have something that's reliable when actually things do get bad. And then that's when they can be in the absolute focus mode and help their organizations.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like this is training, but is this something that people are going to be able to take back to their organization and actually do internally?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would be, and what I do is I provide a folder where they will have, the bare bone playbook, which they will interact with throughout the session, and they'll be making their notes. But they'll also be getting a bunch of other gamified activities, which they can then try to do with, their coworkers, or if there are, cybersecurity leaders coming, then they can try to customize it for their own organizations, for their own security teams. And that is something that can always be expanded and, played with in a way that's, more catered towards your organization, because the key point of the session is that it is tools agnostic. So I'm not going to be specific to any tools, because the entire spectrum of the organizations, people have different varied level of, budgets, varied level of, tools, varied level of teams and structures and skill sets. So I wanted to keep it as open, but as credible and insightful as possible, and adding that gamification element, which makes it, easily digestible for everyone.
Have you seen people? So if you take it back internally, is this just for SOC people, or do you pull in like other people from, IT that might be outside of security?
So actually, the whole thing includes, and the scenario actually runs through and includes like the 5 business units or teams which would be interacting the most with the ransomware scenario, which is IT, security. There is the management, there is the public relations or the communication piece of it, and then there is HR.
Yeah. And so this sounds a lot like a tabletop exercise then.
I would say kind of, because there is a scenario, but it does have specific elements where you need to take like notes and say, okay, this is what is relevant to my organization, and this is what I need to include in the playbook for me, because the playbook that I would be providing goes through a whole lot of length and breadth, but then you need to curtail it down to what you think is relevant for your organization.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes sense. What's one surprising or often overlooked challenge you see when people work through these exercises?
I think I recently did this workshop at a different conference, and what I got like the most resounding feedback was that most people were not aware or how relevant certain initial attack vectors were for ransomware. One, they were not very aware of what those top 5 of them were, or top 3 of them were, and they were not aware of what defenses would be the most relevant for those kind of initial attack vectors to kind of stop the ransomware at the very start of it, kill the chain right there. And that was very surprising for me, for how many people found that interesting and found that insightful. So that was something that I definitely love to hear.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Yeah. So how do you coach technical professionals to bridge that communication gap, right? Because I feel like a lot of people that get into security are kind of introverts, or kind of, they don't communicate very well.
No, and I totally get that. And communication is such an important piece in a ransomware incident. And there is a whole, part which covers a lot of the communication part in the playbook, as well as to what would the communication templates be. And there is always that external and internal aspect of it. So on helping the teams, like especially the technical teams, understand what are the key escalation points, because sometimes the technical folks just need to do the technical stuff, and there, would be someone who would be handling the communication. But that's usually the case for a bigger organization. So what do you do in the smaller ones where, the IT and security team is kind of merged together and there is no PR division? It's kind of, the marketing or the executive leadership taking care of those communication pieces. So the idea with training technical folks to communicate would be that, one, absolutely what is legally okay with your legal counsel, with your general counsel, to communicate internally and especially externally. what would be the escalation point if you have like a cybersecurity insurance, which a lot of companies do, and if it does come down to where the ransomware has been deployed and now you need to communicate with the ransomware threat actors, then that's when maybe you escalate it to your cybersecurity insurance person, and they usually manage that negotiation if that is the path that you want to take. Then there is obviously notifying your internal team. So I take all of those pieces and try to help people understand what is it that's relevant for your organization. One, because I don't want to make that assumption that you're going to have a PR division who's going to take care of the crisis communication. Some organizations do, some organizations don't. And from there, it kind of branches into what would be the methodologies and what would be the templates of communication that you use. So it kind of branches, and it's really subjective to the way the organization is structured. But in a normal scenario, it would be where you have communication templates that's very specific to the ransomware scenario that's included within the playbook, so that it's a one-stop shop for all of the teams that are engaged in the incident response, because communication is a part of incident response. So we cannot say that it's just technical. It really isn't.
So who's someone that should be running this exercise?
So most of the times I find it helpful that a playbook, if the lead is taken by the security team or whoever is going to be the IR manager, whether it's security manager or the CISO, if it comes from them, and they rightfully engaged, because not all of the paths need to be run with everyone present. Some of the parts, which are the more technical parts of ransomware, detection, mitigation, response, are mainly dealt with the security and IT teams. And then when you get to the later parts, or whatever the hallmark is, where you say that, okay, from now on, we have escalated it to the executive leadership, they have escalated to our communication team, to our whatever other teams, to the legal team that there are, you then engage them. But I think coming from the security team, given that this is a cyber incident, would make the most sense.
So like, where do you see kind of the biggest gap in your exercises between like technical security teams and like risk management folks or HR folks, or like where is some of the biggest gaps that you've seen?
I think that even when I was doing the research, and I actually talked to a lot of professionals, a lot of CISOs as well, to come up with the scenario, and I realized that each industry has very unique, risk appetite and threat landscape. So an healthcare industry or an education department or a public sector is going to have a varied, ransomware threat and recovery and response. And a lot of times, a lot of teams are not aware of that, because a lot of the, the proactive stuff that needs to be done is not actually being taken into account. For example, to have the best incident response and recovery efforts, you need to have like a business impact analysis done. You need to, regularly test your backups. You need to understand, are they immutable or not? You need to do, you need to have a business, continuity and disaster recovery plan in case that, some of your critical business operations get, affected because of the ransomware attack. A lot of these, if done preemptively, with the right measures and the right resources and time allocated, it's going to really bring down the pain of the ransomware attack to as minimal as possible. I mean, obviously it's not going to go away, but a lot of organizations or a lot of professionals were telling that that's not something that's taken into account. A lot of organizations don't even do a business impact analysis, especially the SMB, because they have very limited resources. They have a very small team. Sometimes they don't even have a security team. So doing all of this, like some of them don't even know that there's a procedure for doing that. So a lot of these proactive things that can help, just reduce the pain of ransomware are not even taken into account or are not well known. So that's I think the biggest chunk of it. And then there's obviously the other part of it, from a very technical standpoint and very specific to ransomware, is mainly the detection part of it. Sometimes ransomware gets as bad as it gets because the detection is not done early on. There are definitely signs. For example, not a lot of people know about ClickFix. Although now, like it's gotten, this word has spread in the industry. Something like ClickFix, which Interlock has been using a lot. Many of the professionals don't know how it can lead to ransomware, so it's just treated as a one-off incident. So having a good detection, criteria and going through a detailed procedure, which is robust and kind of also takes into account the kind of alert fatigue that the security teams face. What should be the escalation? What should be a known thing in terms of threat intel that, hey, this has been known to be associated with ransomware. So don't overlook it or don't just treat it as a one-off. Dig a little deeper, make sure that you're taking all of the mitigation action. That's the other piece of it that I've seen.
Yeah, it sounds like so this is not just for like a full-blown ransomware incident, right? It's for trying to catch some of this stuff early on.
Mm-hmm. So, yep, absolutely. So it's proactive, and then it goes into definitely like more reactive stuff. What do you need to do in like containment and recovery and different scenarios where it branches out into whether you have a full encryption, a partial encryption, what double extortion is almost a standard now. So are you at the risk of a triple extortion? Stuff like that. So it goes slowly into those different parts. But it'll definitely be like a condensed version with the 45-minute. I did recently the 2-hour version, and it's more in depth. But I mean, it can always be adapted to the different formats.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Are these scenarios kind of pre-built that you put together, or are they randomized, or how do those scenarios work?
So there's one scenario that I would be going through the workshop, and that one is like very specifically curated for a specific industry that's found to be the one of the most targeted industries. And it goes through, as I talk to a lot of professionals to understand, the regulations part of it, what are the common, detection techniques, what are the common tool stacks used in this industry. So a lot of industry professionals like pitched in their ideas, their expertise, and their insights into helping me build that scenario. But I do have like a template of how that scenario can be built for different industries. And that is something that I'll be putting in the participant folder for people to access and then use that template for themselves.
Oh, that's awesome. How much are you leveraging AI for this?
So I actually have a section within the session for how people can leverage AI, and then how threat actors are obviously leveraging AI. But for my personal creating the workshop, if that is what you're asking, there was a little bit of verify or getting the latest updates, but a lot of it was mainly based on the research that I'd already done, and from all of the points and all of the details that I got from talking to industry professionals. That was like the core chunk of getting insight and building this workshop from ground up.
Oh yeah, that's really I left it very broad. I like to do that just to see where people go with it. So no, that was perfect. That's really great. So how do you personally stay up to date? I love that you mentioned ClickFix.
Mhm.
'Cause I recently heard about double hijacking, which is where they're putting a button and then you're double clicking it and it's going away like right away. Like it tells you to double click it. So we're seeing all this click fix and other stuff. But how do you personally stay up to date and sharp on the cybersecurity industry?
So I have signed up for a lot of, so the very first hour of my workday is completely just going through reports. And I have actually filtered them out to be very specific. So I put them I actually used a little bit of AI for that to build that segregation. So I have a very specific just inbox for threat intel reports, and I segregate them according to industries, and I definitely just give that 1 hour to be very specific. And because I work at an MSSP, we have clients across different industries. I like to just put them in different buckets and go through like the top findings. And what I do is and I use AI for this, is that there are specific reports that I want like a summary of, and I do like just plug it into an AI tool and say, give me like the TLDR of these 3 reports, and give me the specific IOCs I should be looking for. And I put them in, I query them in our data lake and do the threat hunting to see if anything is matching this, given that it's specific to those industries. And if not, and it's like capped, like 1 hour, if once the time runs out, it runs out. But that is something that I do on like a daily basis, just because it keeps me up to date on what's the most latest things that are happening. And there are a lot of wonderful threat intel reports and just cybersecurity insight reports. I really personally loved Halcyon's research and reports, and they were a sponsor of the workshop, the ransomware workshop that I did for a previous conference. Really loved their reports. And there are many other companies which come with like quarterly reports, which I do keep an eye out for, because they show a wonderful trend of what ransomware groups are on the rise. So like Interlock or Nightspire are kind of gaining a little bit of momentum. Ransom Hub has been kind of dominating. It's like it came in last year and it has already dominated Q1 from what I read. The ones that are re-emerging, how there is Logbit 3.0, and Black Pasta has gone down after the duck hunt, but how are their techniques still being used? So all of those are very, very critical information. And the other thing that I really love to keep an eye out for in these newsletters and findings and threat intel reports is info stealers, because they do not cause direct ransomware, but that's where the credentials are gone out from your system and go in the hands of IABs, which then sell it to RAS organizations or ransomware threat actors. So that's something I keep an eye out for very recently in these reports.
So that's awesome. There are so many reports now. I feel like every company has their own report, and it's actually kind of hard. So I'm glad that you mentioned throwing it in AI. I never even thought about it, and I use AI quite a bit. And I never even thought about just taking the report and dumping it in there, and then having it kind of sift out some of the stuff. I mean, I'll still read like the Verizon DBIR just came out, and
True.
I'll definitely still go through that one. But some of these other ones, it's like, I'd like to get to these, but I just don't have the time. So I love the idea of putting it into AI. What's one takeaway or one key point that people are going to come away with from your session at ShowMeCon?
How much there is in ransomware, because that's other thing that I came to know from doing it and talking to professionals, is that there is a very, very high level understanding of ransomware, and a lot of times it is in theory, because not every cybersecurity professional gets to go through a ransomware incident, the entire life cycle. So what one knows is pretty much, you read a news of a ransomware attack happening, but the details of it are not as clear, are not as well backed with evidence. So understanding that entire life cycle from, preparation, detection, containment, eradication, recovery, what are the details of it? Having an idea of that is, and having actually a playbook. So that's like, the depth of the ransomware lifecycle, and then an actual playbook that they would walk away with, which they have catered to for their own organization. I think those two are the biggest key takeaways from the session.
What would you like to plug?
Yeah, so definitely. Like, I am someone who loves to just talk cybersecurity. I'm an absolute nerd. So anyone like having any questions, or hey, I just want to talk about this. Like, I really have been talking a lot about ransomware, and like given a mic, I can probably go on for hours about it just because of how much research I've put into it. But trust me, I like dabble in like pretty much every cybersecurity incident there is, whether it's like BC, DDoS. So anyone ever wants to talk about it, my LinkedIn DMs are always open. I also am part of like Women in Cybersecurity, and trying to be more involved in the Midwest like InfoSec community. So if there are any like meetups or any community spaces that are cool in Midwest, I would love to be a part of those. But yeah, I don't really have any plug. I would be better prepared for that question next time, I guess.
You're good. You're good. All right. Well, thank you for joining me to discuss how to gamify your incident response playbook.
Absolutely. It was so fun talking to you.